welcome to the 034 Motorsport live chat episode.
Hold on, YouTube. There we go. Okay, YouTube took that long, dude.
Welcome, YouTube. Episode what?
146.
146.
Getting up there.
I'm Javad Chadzi. This is Nate Stewart, and we're here to answer all your questions about all things 034 Motorsport products, services, history, philosophy. You love us, you hate us. Put it into the browser text field of your choice, and we will do our best to respond to all of them. There's already a huge list. We had some premature subminations already. Yeah, and
is that subliminal messaging?
We'll have more coming, I'm sure. We take a no BS approach to responding to your questions. We like to cut to the heart of the matter, and I like to think we're very truthful and direct about anything we talk about, which is always the road. Yes, as long as the rubber meets the road, that's what's important. The direct nature of the responses could come across as condescending or hurtful. If that happens, I apologize in advance. It's certainly not our intention. We're talking to a group of people out there, and we have no feedback, or we also have to kind of guess as to what the motives are behind the questions sometimes, things like that. So
it's tough to know too what technical level we're answering to. So we try and keep it as broad and all encompassing as we can.
Yes. So we will jump right in. Someone is asking, I have a B8.5 with a CWA 100 and the biggest MercRacing heat exchanger. Temps are great, and I don't track the car. I was originally considering the 207 mil crank pulley, but instead of going stage 2 plus, I was thinking about staying on the safer side for longevity and going with the 190 only and later porting the blower. Do you think it'd be safer and easier on the engine to go with a more aggressive port at stage 2 versus doing stage 2 plus and doing a less aggressive port?
It's going to be less stress, less heat if you keep the stage 2 pulley ratios. And porting is just about making it a more efficient air pump. So your efficiency is going to go up. The stress is going to be the lower of the two combinations for sure on the lower pulley ratio. So that's if you want the most efficient setup, that's what I would probably steer towards. And generally porting, you're going to pick up a little bit of boost too, depending on the port job specifically.
If it's working.
But that's the idea, is it's getting a little more air into the charger.
Mm-hmm. The other thing to consider is the temperatures you're dealing with. If you live in a really cool climate, or you're specifically driving the car hard in the winter, then you can get away with the bigger ratio, because your overall heat is lower. But the bigger heat exchangers on the front of the car, they don't directly correlate to the cooling in the cylinder head. They'll help it recover, but there's only so much those little Berks can do inside the actual manifold. Yeah, that's right.
So we're officially at one full page of questions, only from YouTube.
Oh my goodness! All right, we're gonna try and roll through these questions, guys. I'm
so sorry to ask, but was wondering if there is any updates to the B9 S5, SQ5, advanced launch control, mobile tuning. Oh wow, this guy's getting all the updates.
He's ticking all of these boxes. Advanced launch control, mobile tuning, PCV solution, and Pure 750 tune.
They all have the same answer.
Yes, there are updates for all of those. I mean, they are all happening at various states of development.
We're working on them all, and they're all making progress.
Yeah, personally, I can speak to the advanced launch. I am working on that right now, as well as mobile tuning. So those are definitely getting actively worked on the software side. And then the other two, there's a 750 turbo on a car right now being calibrated. So and then the PCB is in hardware development.
Yeah, we're not giving. There's no specific dates to give, unfortunately, with stuff like this. It's done when it's done. A few weeks ago, these are long questions too. A few weeks ago, basically, someone has a 3.0T. Their car went into. Oh wait, this is a B8.
Nope. Sorry.
It sounded very 3.0T. Question. They had a misfire. They replaced a spark plug that fixed it. Then they came back. They replaced the coil, ignition coil, didn't fix it. And they're asking, what to do. It sounds like on these 3.0Ts, these misfire issues are usually related to some type of injector issue.
Yeah.
The spark plug issue is typically related to the injector issue. So I would, strongly recommend looking at replacing the injector in that cylinder. Thankfully, the injectors aren't that expensive, and they're pretty quick and easy to change. Like a couple hours at the most.
Yeah,
So.
they followed up and said it seems to be running lean. I'm not sure what they use to determine that. Maybe just looking at plugs and asking if installing a high pressure pump would help, and that's not going to help a single cylinder issue.
No.
That is a global change. You're still going to have the same offset on a degraded injector on that cylinder no matter what.
Yeah, the injector is a fundamental operating device in the engine that has to be
It has to be within spec.
optimal. Yeah. If you were considering buying a used B9 B9.5 S4 with the immediate goal of tune and eventual plan to pure 750 or TTE, do you find the S Sport package a must-have for the daily highway driver? Thanks.
I don't know what specifically is in that
What's that
S
in that?
Sport package. If it's the Sport diff, yes, I would say that is.
That's nice.
That is something. I mean,
That's nice to have.
I guess it depends. If it's a highway driver, it doesn't make much difference.
If
you're gonna like hock it around some corners, it makes a big difference. So.
It says it's a must-have for a daily/highway driver, and I would say no, not a must-have. If you're doing some aggressive spirited driving on the street, like you like to toss it around the corner and go wide open throttle, it would be nice to have.
Sure.
On track, it's going to make a much bigger difference.
Yep.
It's still not a must-have. You could still have a lot of fun on track without the sport diff, but the sport diff is just...
It drives very differently with a sport diff.
it drives... You're going to be able to use the throttle to steer the car much more than with the stock, not the stock, but the open
The
diff.
open diff, yeah.
They're both stock. Hey guys, any outlook on mobile tuning, or maybe how much it'll be to upgrade to mobile tuning? And I think we just answered that.
We're actively working on it right now.
And we're not going to talk about any potential pricing impacts or anything, at this point.
We're rolling a lot of features into the tune, the mobile app too.
Okay, there's a lot of update questions in we can weed
It's
out.
all just pure 750.
Yeah,
The horse is
Pure
dead.
750, we're working on it.
we're working on
The
it.
horse is dead.
I have a 2019 S5 running Stage 1 ECU E85 and Stage 2 TCU. I've put about 2,500 miles on the car tuned and have subsequently burned through 1 quart of engine oil. No leaks. Is this normal?
A quart and 2,500 miles is normal. I mean,
It's on the high
it's
side.
on the high side, but it's. I mean, I think Audi's tolerance is almost half that in mileage for what a dealer will say is abnormal.
Yeah, I mean, I would just keep an eye on it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a one single data point, and it could have been a half a quart low when you
I was
tuned
thinking
it,
that
and so you're actually not talking about a 2,500 mile range. You're talking about a 10,000 mile range. So just keep an eye on it. But adding oil to any engine is normal. Engines do consume oil slowly, and the reason for that is oil is inside the crankcase, and the piston is inside the crankcase. The very top of the piston is sealed to the cylinder bore of the engine and to the combustion chamber of the cylinder head. And so as as the piston moves up and down in the cylinder bore, oil is all over the cylinder walls. And so there are piston rings that specifically scrape the oil off the cylinder walls and keep it out of the combustion chamber. But invariably, they don't scrape 100.0% of the oil off the cylinder walls. Maybe they scrape 99% of it off. So there's still 1% of oil that's deposited on the cylinder walls that gets into the combustion chamber and burns as part of the combustion cycle.
There's several interfaces like that. There's the valve stem seals, basically the exact same process there.
Valve stems,
turbo housings.
So anytime you have a
some amount.
seal in the engine, keeping engine crankcase oil away from the induction side of the engine, you are going to consume oil. So there's again no such thing as perfect sealing of oil, and so just the small amounts of it burn every time the crankshaft goes around. So after 10,000 miles, you could use up a quart. Now, once those piston ring tolerances loosen and wear as the engine ages, or if the engine never broke in properly from the factory, or there's something slightly wrong, it's going to be higher. But for that reason, the factories all give kind of a range of engine oil consumption that's acceptable. And based on what you posted here, I don't think you definitively know that it was 1 quart and 2,500 miles. So why don't you keep an eye on it? Simple to do on a phone app or on a piece of paper in your glove box. But I think you'll find it's probably
these cars
not
are kind of tricky too, because it's all the MMI based oil level, so you're not getting maybe quite as much resolution as ye olden days when you actually had a dipstick to look at.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think he's going to find it's fine. Yeah. And the tuning doesn't necessarily change the amount of oil consumption in the motor. It doesn't affect the way your piston rings seal or any of that stuff. How come there's no software to go along with the new cams? Was the already existing Stage 2 Plus file already optimized enough? Yes, when we did the testing for the cams, we found that the existing tune, any of the existing tunes, were able to realize gains from the cams. And so instead of delaying the cam release or spending extra time doing a file and linking the cams to a specific file, we didn't feel that was necessary at all. So what we're advertising now is about a 30 horsepower gain on the average Stage 2 tune.
Yep.
On ours, for certain, we can't say for
this was all measured on our stuff.
It stands to reason that a competitor tune that is available would probably see the same gains. And now, is there more power to be had by an optimized file? Very likely, and that's something that we're exploring. But for now, 30 horsepower is a lot of gains if you've already done everything else up to this point. There is no, $3,500 mod you can do out there. If you're Stage 2 Plus and you're ported and you've done everything, I don't even think porting necessarily gives you this much power. So it's a great bang for the buck at this
at that level,
this phase of the tuning life cycle for the B8 supercharged motor. Now, some people were outraged because a Stage 1 tune is only $800 and it blah blah blah. Well, yeah, obviously you do that first.
Yeah,
cams are.
This is when you're at the end of the road and you're looking for the next.
Cams aren't Stage 1
option.
So, all right. Do you think the new AY-S3 Mk8 R platform is capable of getting a 10-second quarter mile on stock turbo?
I
think so.
I would think so. Yeah, and we're pretty close to that with a full weight car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll definitely get there. Especially, I talked about this recently. You could take a stock S3 and get it to 10 seconds.
If you get really gnarly with it.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing particularly remarkable about a 10-second anything. Now, can an S3 hit a 140 mile an hour trap? Well, that's a little different, and that's something that tuning and horsepower increases can actually do something about. But you put wrinkle slicks on a stock S3 and you got the interior, you could probably get into the 10s pretty easily, So the 10 second just represents how fast does the car get out of the hole and get up to speed. And if you could knock out a 1.2 second 60 foot and an S3, you're going to be in the 10s. So the question is it a 10-second run at 140 miles an hour or something like that? And that's where things are heading for sure. With
the mile per hour is a much better measure of performance.
On the B9 Stage 3 E60 tune, is it better to run closer to E60 so the fuel system is less stressed, or is the difference between E60 and E70 minimum?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly going to be less stressed at E60. So, yes, that is generally a better way to have.
Okay. Yeah. The closer you are to full E85, the more stress on the fuel system.
Yep.
There's less stress at, say, E0, but
you're not
going to get the benefits of the octane. So that's where these kind of E60 blends, or we do E40 on the B8 stuff.
Yep.
And that's where those shine. Okay, well, I think we're good with pure 750.
That was a leftover.
Okay. For For the B9, B9.5 tunes, is there ever any plans to give users an option to reduce the crazy pops and bangs? Also, if we go stage 1, wouldn't the overrun be bad for our stock catted downpipe?
So the overrun function on that is a factory function that is,
Yeah.
it's honestly not spiced up that much from factory. It's just, it's enabled a little, I guess, in more situations. But the catalyst thresholds and all that are still there.
And pops and bangs will turn off if the catalyst reaches a certain point. It's so it's still being managed by the factory ECU, and all the safety factors are still built into the tuning, just because there's pops and bangs.
Have we even seen any? I don't
Never.
think I've seen a
Not-
single issue on a factory catalyst yet.
Not that I'm
No,
aware.
not on the B9s.
Not on B9s and not from pops and bangs. Now on the aftermarket, there's been some aftermarket.
Yeah, that's just
Stuff
a
going on.
material issue.
I think the issue with pops and bangs too is, like Nate said, it is a factory feature. It's there, but with the factory exhaust and CAD in place, that's very quiet and subdued. But once you start removing, the muffling of the factory exhaust system, and the factory CAT does a lot of muffling, then the pops and bangs get more and more obtrusive. If you want to hear really gnarly pops and bangs, take the exhaust off.
Yeah.
And just have it come out the back.
Yeah,
of the
it is a tough balance which we have to try and strike, because we're trying to cater to those with full stock exhaust all the way up to the the very raunchier race setups.
Yeah. As far as options for modifying pops and bangs in the future, or even having it be turned off completely, I would say just submit your feedback through the regular channels, and
if
we
it's
do
not-
listen.
Yeah, if there's enough people, we can certainly make adjustments here and there. Like I said, we're trying to meet that balance that most people want for stuff like this.
I think a lot of people also don't know they can turn it off.
That's another thing we keep bumping
Yeah.
into is you can get your setup so everything's in sport and dynamic mode except for the engine sound, and that's through the MMI. If you get it in the individual mode, and then you can pick the sport everything except engine sound, and you'll get you get rid of basically the pops and bangs.
Yeah. Question about Mk8 TCU unlocks. I don't think we have anything new.
Nothing to add to that right now.
This is an industry-wide thing, unfortunately.
Yeah, everybody's working on it.
Yeah. I have an E85 Stg1 on a B9 S5 Sportback, but have only the Stage 1 TCU file. Does the Stage 2 prolong the life of the TCU, or is it for performance only? I'm going to get it. I'm just wondering. Are you really going to get it? Just teasing.
It honestly is probably, it's a little bit of both, because you do get a quicker change, a little more clamping pressure, so there's a little bit less slip between gear changes. So, a side benefit to the quicker gear changes, you do get less of that in between that transition point where it's basically engaging the clutch sets from one gear set to the next.
Yeah.
That's not, it's not necessarily its intent, and we haven't had a single issue on the Stage 1 TCU file either. But yeah, technically you're probably going to get a little bit more life out of Stage 2.
Yeah. But we're not here to say it's a safety upgrade,
That wasn't there wasn't a reason that the Stage 2 file needed to be updated, or Stage 1 file needed to be updated to Stage 2 for a longevity issue.
Yeah, it's the product is a performance product that changes
It
and improves the shifting.
And it is quite a substantial improvement.
The good news is it's not going to hurt reliability either. So. Originally, there was just a rear sway bar upgrade for the B8.5, but recently I see a full kit with the rear. What changed? If memory serves me right, 034 always said the front wasn't needed. Yeah, so there's kind of a epidemic of black and white thinking, and so in order to navigate this topic, we have to kind of operate in some gray areas to define why we ended up releasing a front bar when we didn't have a front bar for so long. Our position always has been and still is that for the liveliest handling with handling that is towards oversteer, not understeer, or the maximum reduction in push or understeer, that only the rear sway bar should be used. That's still our position. So if you're looking for a B8 setup, you have nice springs and a good suspension on the car, preferably ours. and you want the car to really turn when you go into a corner. When you go into a corner and you breathe off the throttle a little bit, or you touch the brakes, you want that car to rotate, then you want the rear bar. What we weren't able to satisfy is the group of people out there who weren't really interested in that type of lively handling, who weren't getting into car control. And it was mostly people who were looking to drive in a spirited fashion and kind of huck the car around corners, but without the tires squealing or anything like that. In that case, adding the front sway bar does make the car handle flatter and feel more responsive to steering inputs. The car will push more like the factory once you add the front bar back in. However, the car will still handle very good, and as long as you keep the tires within their traction patch, you're not going to have any issues with adding the front bar. So the two applications really satisfied different type of driving requirements and desires for customers, and up till now we haven't necessarily been able to satisfy the second one as well, and now we can with the front bar setup. The reason we went back early on, we had a pretty limited sway bar line, and so we had to kind of pick and choose like what we thought were the biggest bang for the buck bars. But for the last 5 years, we've been releasing front and rear sway bar sets for everything, and allowing people to buy just the rear bars in the same fashion as the B8 was. So we finally felt like we needed to go back to the B8, and it is still one of our most popular selling sway bars. And the front bar has been very popular since we released it as well. A lot of people either buying just the front bar to add to the rear bar they already have, or doing both. Under no conditions would we recommend only running the front bar, unless
you really like to plow in a straight line when you turn.
Yeah. And some people really like plowing, so that's good. Hey guys, Crackle overrun on stage 2 for a B7A4. How does that work?
I'm not entirely sure the question, but it's the same on most of these platforms. It's just a manipulation of the ignition advance on deceleration and fueling strategy for a certain amount of time after you lift. So
yeah. What does the 3.0T C7A6 top out at?
No idea. Whatever
tops out at 100.
Yeah, whatever your conditions will permit in a safe manner.
Yeah, I don't think. I'm not that familiar with.
Yeah,
I haven't spent.
They definitely get moving, especially if they're modded. But I don't know. Never bothered.
Probably with like
top speed runs
with
are
mods,
not
probably at least 180, 190.
Yeah, I know.
I've seen someone do some crazy.
Yeah, I've seen S4s that have done well over that with the same motor.
Yeah. I think one A6 guy got 190 something.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me with the kind of power these cars have, and they have good gearing too.
They do.
2015 B8.5 RS5 4.2 liter V8. I have found no direct fit catch can kits for this platform. That's simply due to the effectiveness of limiting carbon buildup, or is it a limited market for that platform? Yeah, it's definitely a limited market. That's a really small. It's just a small group of cars, and I think catch can kits are. They're not in the kind of the core tuning product group that most companies focus on. We do a lot of catch can kits. I don't think we would do one for the B7 RS5 because I feel like we'd sell like 20 of them.
Yeah, I want to say they're also much less problematic PCV-wise on normally aspirated motors than they are on turbo stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of those have been tracked in the past, and I don't remember them having too many issues with that. But I think if there was 200,000 of those cars here, we'd probably have a catch can for it.
Yeah, well, and the valve stem buildup. It helps. It definitely helps a bit with the catch can, but it's not a cure all for that for the carbon deposits. Yeah, so that's actually some from the combustion chamber itself. You get some gas release backwards.
Yeah, and the catch cans. The purpose of a catch can isn't to reduce carbon buildup, although it can help as a side effect. The purpose of the catch can is to keep engine crankcase oil out of the induction side of the motor, to prevent oil going through the PCV system back into the intake and having the motor ingest it. That can cause carbon buildup, but the real issue is is lots of smoke out of your tailpipe, high levels of oil consumption, reduced, combustion efficiency, things like that.
Yeah. I mean, MQB cars untouched will literally leave a smoke screen on track, and if you get it in the right situation.
Yeah, like Spy Hunter.
Yep.
Smoke screen. Audi B9 2019, looking at lowering springs. I live in Montreal. The streets are bad. Montreal. Should I go lowering springs or coilovers? I don't know if that really matters. I think the amount of lowering you do is what's important.
Yeah, what kit you go with is what's going to matter.
Yeah, I mean, lowering springs and coilovers both do the same thing. They suspend the car a certain height, and they give the car a certain amount of suspension travel. I would like to say that our Dynamic Plus springs would be a good choice, even in an area with bad roads. Our springs are designed to work great on track and very sporting driving, but also on streets in the real world. With that said, I mean, if your streets are like cratered, you may want to consider just staying stock. I don't know.
I don't know how bad we're talking.
And then you can also run a bigger, thicker sidewall. You may want to run like a 17-inch wheel with some balloon tires.
Yeah, no, honestly, that is probably going to be as much of a drive quality effect.
Because you could raise the car and put a rally suspension on it, and with 20-inch wheels, you're going to crash. You're going to make it 10 feet and get stranded the first time you hit a pothole. So, I'd say I've spent a lot of time on our springs on the street and the track. It's a really good handling, really nice riding.
Setup. You think our roads kind of fell apart this year too with all the rain we had, so they've been getting a lot of pothole testing.
Yes. Yeah, I actually got a flat in the 8YS3 on stock suspension.
Like day 2 of owning the
stock
car.
Wheels, yeah. Nick had to rescue me. Thank you.
I think we lost a tire on the BMW that week.
We lost something else.
That week was rough.
The winter was bad.
The GTI just got taken out from the sinkhole.
The Mark 7, the 7.5.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, remember?
On the flow forms?
Yeah.
I saw an Instagram post earlier today. It was a Stg3 TCU update released for B9. A guy with an S5 posted it. Is it released, and what did it fix? So we did release an update.
I think this is just a 1.0.2, so there's no real update. If it's a third number on that revision, so it's like a 1.0 is our normal first release. If there's anything after that, like a 0.1 or a 0.2, those are some specific little fixes for that box code that we had to implement or needed to adjust something specific to that ECU. So yeah, there's no change in the file per se for anything else. So no, if there's an update, we're getting pretty good about sending emails out to everybody that's got the files.
Yeah.
So nope, nothing much there.
Nothing that would affect the way the car drives or performs. Your B8 camshafts are only for early 3.0T, but B8 and B8.5 share the same exhaust camshaft, and only the intake camshafts are there plans to make camshafts for the later 3.0T. Yes, I see people are getting creative here, which I appreciate. So we have confirmed for the B8. Obviously, they fit the B8, and that's if you have a B8, you can buy them with confidence. We are looking into the B8.5 application. We will absolutely have a solution for B8.5, so you don't need to jump through any hoops as far as only running the exhaust cams or whatever. There is a small difference on B8.5, and there's several different ways we can solve it. So this really kind of came up about a week ago, and we've been working on it since with everything else we're doing as well. But we will announce the B8.5 solution when we have it, hopefully sooner than later. But hang in there, it's definitely coming. More Crackle talk. How do the Crackles in the 034 S5 B9 tune work as to not damage the cats? I know they said the Crackles are safe and manufactured as Audi does them, but what does this mean? Are not all Crackles because of burning extra fuel and detonations in the exhaust?
It's not detonations in the exhaust, so it's the stock strategy, and the same strategy we use because we're just changing the stock strategy a bit, is you reduce some of the ignition timing advance. So the combustion's all still happening in the cylinder, in the chamber. It's not extra fuel. It's still lambda controlled. It's still all controlled. It's just happening late enough in that stroke, so when that exhaust valve opens, you get a little bit of that combustion noise essentially coming out the exhaust valve path. It's not anything more than that. It's not like it's lighting off in the exhaust only and not under the normal combustion method. So, it's just a later combustion event.
And let's clarify: catalytic converters exist to combust unburnt fuel. So whenever there's a combustion event, the catalytic converter is so hot that it continues to burn. Now, it doesn't mean that there's half a gallon of raw fuel in your exhaust.
Right.
But in the combustion gases, there are unburnt fuel vapor.
Yeah, I mean, smell a car that doesn't have a catalyst on it, or an older car.
I mean, in the old days when I was a kid, you just smelled raw fuel.
Yeah, that is a lot of raw fuel, and that has to get like what I said, burnt off, catalyzed into a much safer.
So the catalytic converter's job is literally to burn fuel. So I just want to make that clear. Now, if there's some extra fuel from the Crackle event, the same kind of safety feature that's built into the ECU, your brain actually uses. I don't know if you knew this, but let's say you have a hot burner that's glowing at 2,000 degrees, and your hand is room temperature, about 80 degrees. You can put your hand 1 inch from that burner, and your brain will let you keep your hand there until it's not safe. And then once your skin temperature achieves a certain point, your brain will stop you from holding your hand there. And it's the same thing the factory ECU does.
Yeah, so
it's monitoring the catalyst temperature,
yeah,
and then making adjustments. So if the catalyst is within a certain temperature range, like your hand, then it's safe and it's fine. And you can actually put your hand next to that burner for 1 second and remove it with zero safety or deterioration of your health. But if you keep it there for 1 minute, yes, your skin will start burning off. Right. So that's the same type of logic that the factory.
Yeah, where this is a factory feature too. It's all of the manipulations that are done to change the behavior or the time, whatever. That's all still calculated, still modeled, still goes into the EGT model of the catalyst. So all of that is applied when it calculates when it's safe or not safe to light off that.
Yeah, and if you put your hand next to that burner 10 times in a row and your skin starts feeling a little sore and discomforted, your brain's going to say, we're not doing that anymore. Maybe we'll do some, in an hour or next week or whatever. And so the factory ECU will shut it off, and the catalytic converter can recover quite quickly.
There's a lot of exhaust. Yeah, I mean, this is on like full decel, so that's the other thing, is the amount of energy coming out of this. This is on like full deceleration. You've got very minimal airflow coming through.
There's hardly any.
Compared to like a wide open throttle pull, you're putting a lot less energy into the cat than like $6,000 wide open throttle.
All right. Well, you skip that one. Will your racing cats for the RS5 make the car louder? Yes, any type of higher flowing cat will make the exhaust sound louder. Now our RS5 cats are like Euro 4 specification, so they're not actually. I mean, technically speaking, by law they're racing cats, but in practice they're OEM cats from like 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
I think the B6 is Euro 4. If I looked it up right, B6 A4 is Euro 4 specification.
They're all at least Euro 4 now. Yeah. We updated everything.
No,
No, you're saying factory. The
OEM.
Yeah. B6 era. Yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So 2010.
05.
Yeah. But I think it was up through like 2010. I looked it up once. But yes, the new Euro 6 standards and have tighter, more restrictive bricks, and so they do restrict the sound. But yes, it will be. It will be. I wouldn't say like. I mean, this is all arbitrary and subjective, but it's like 50% of doing an aftermarket exhaust or something. It's going to be louder.
It's really a little sharper note to it as well.
It just does less muffling. I'm suffering from analysis paralysis. Oh, I'm good at analysis paralysis. Shopping for aftermarket wheels. For a B9 S5 Sportback, would you stay 19-inch upsize to 20-inch? What wheel and tire spec would you recommend? So an S5 Sportback, what options do we have for that? 20 by 10s?
So the 20 by 10 would fit, or they could do the 1993 with a spacer. But he seems more concerned about tire comfort and all that jazz.
Yeah, if comfort, I'd say 19.
He doesn't say that, though.
Yeah, that's not even the question here.
Does he say that?
When someone's considering 19 or 20, that's generally why, so perhaps he can respond to
Yeah, let us know a little more what you're looking for, because it's two very different things. I mean,
Yeah, I think the average, I do not recommend a 20-inch like on an MQB. It's just way too much. I would say max 19, 18 is really nice.
Yeah.
Now, if you can get like a 20 by 10-inch wheel, and on the S5 where you have a bigger overall rolling diameter, if you can get into a 20-inch tire that's like a 285 on like a 30 or 35 series, like a 35 series, you're gonna have a decent amount of sidewall compared to like an MQB, which is gonna be like on a 245. But in general, the 19-inch is gonna ride better. It's gonna be safer for the wheel as far as bending your wheel and getting a flat or something like that, or cutting the tire sidewall. 20s look great. They look better. They're both going to kind of handle similarly, although the 19 will have a little bit more compliance on rougher surfaces. So yeah, but let us know a little bit more about what you're thinking.
yeah, it's a really tough. I mean, there's a reason we offer multiple sizes.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different considerations. So yes, sorry, we fix your paralysis. We need a little more info.
Yeah. Best mods for the Audi S4 B9 to improve performance.
I think we got this one.
Stage 1 acceleration handling package.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, go on our website. We offer an incredibly complete product line, but you can start with ECU, tuning. You can work your way up to stages, TCU tune, springs, sway bars, inserts, and then you can get into camber arms, which are a huge improvement. Our strut brace and inserts and all that stuff should be implemented. You just kind of work your way through the catalog that way, and as you kind of do some of the more stage 1-y stuff, it's going to inform you as to what you want from the car next. Do you want more power? Do you want more handling? Do you want better braking? What type of handling are you looking for? But everyone kind of goes about it a little differently, and then we do have these packages that just have everything from stage 1 up. So we try and make it easy. Is it possible to adjust the magnetic ride to make it stiffer on launches? We don't really mess with that. I know APR borrowed they literally blatantly just relabeled some other Holley product.
What was it?
Yeah,
That's what I was just trying to remember.
DSC Sport.
That's what it was.
That concept.
like they're just buying it and then sticking their own label on it and selling it.
Correct.
From DSC.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I wouldn't buy it from APR. If you want to buy it from DSC. What value APR is bringing. But we haven't messed with that too much. We have one, right? But we just haven't done anything.
Yeah.
I got it on the T.
We had it on the TT for a while.
Yeah.
Didn't play around with it too much. We had some other stuff we were doing.
I'm on stage 1 with you guys. 2017 S3. Don't think the stage 2 is worth it. Changed my mind. It is. It's not necessarily worth it.
No, the stock catalyst on those is not a big restriction at all.
There is a power gain to be had. It's a racing modification, so it kind of puts you into this problematic area from an emissions legality
Right.
standpoint.
Yeah. Obviously, you can't run that on the street.
But you can make more power on stage 2 if you're looking for every last HP. Then it's a good way to go. But yeah, no, we don't push stage 2 very hard. But a lot of people do go there.
Yep.
Or put the other direction. Our stage 1.
Yeah, our stage 1's got. I mean, it's. Yeah, everything's pretty much there for it, so there's not a lot left on the table.
There's a lot of pops and bangs talk. Some people don't like it.
Yeah,
some people like
literally,
it.
like, I don't want any more. And then the next comment, leave it. We love them. So
You
yeah,
can-
this is the struggle. We try and balance, and That's why, thankfully, on most of these new cars, you can pick and choose and turn them
Yeah.
on and off and set up different modes so that you can drive around with no pops and bangs ever. So.
Yeah. And you can turn it on and off, like you
Yep.
said. So,
Some more pops and bangs. We got a lot of questions to go through. So.
someone says, "Can we answer your email?" Yes, we answer all emails. Typically, it takes about a day to respond to an email. Sometimes faster, but don't forget there was a weekend. So.
Yes.
Are your Dynamic Plus caster plates for MQB cars a good upgrade for a street car, or only really noticeable on track?
Well, they're definitely noticeable on the street.
Any kind of camber caster changes are very noticeable just driving the car. It doesn't really matter where. Just turning the steering wheel, you're going to notice it. So those are great modifications. I highly recommend them. The Camster is a good option if you want to get both. I think typically that's the good way to go. Can you talk about fuel safety on DAZA Stage 1 files? We have what the fuck?
Notoriously bad. Yeah, sorry, they jumped up there.
I think
Notoriously bad gas. Do you have safety features in place to mitigate issues coming from this, similar to stock systems? All of the stock systems are still there, so yes. That said, I don't know, how bad your gas is. As you turn the dial up on any tune further and further, it's going to rely on having the proper octane fuel in the tank. There's only so much you can do about that. And the stock system doesn't measure the octane as it's coming in and adjust accordingly. It's going to rely on feedback from things like NOx sensors and lambda sensors and that kind of thing. So it's a reactive, not a proactive change. So you're still going to encounter, if it's terrible fuel, a bunch of knock first until the ECU starts reeling things back. So it's a bad way to tune. So or a bad way to run. So yeah, that's not a lot of good options there. If you're really pushing for more power.
Yeah.
All kinds of questions, guys. We're getting through some of these.
Aloha from Hawaii. Have you guys ran into rocker arm failures at ZTF Automotive or in general? If so, were you able to service it without pulling the engine? I don't think we've seen any here.
I don't think we've had a single one come through that I've heard about.
And even we have a lot of close Audi dealership relationships, and they're not seeing a lot of them either. I mean, they're seeing some, but it's a certain earlier
It's the
range
earlier
of cars.
builds, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I can't speak to whether you have to pull the engine or not. You could probably do it in the car, I imagine, but I can't say for sure. Sometimes it's just cheaper to pull, easier and faster to pull the motor. Any plans for an X pipe for the RS5? Well, we already have a Res X, which is has proven to be a great mod. We chose not to do the X pipe due to kind of the muffler configuration on that car, but we were able to achieve the desired Res X sound by doing kind of the downpipe, mid-pipe pieces. So I strongly recommend doing that. I don't think you need anything else.
I like this one. Have any extra tuning cables lying around? Yeah, we have many tuning cables. They're all available. You can pick one up on the website.
Not extra.
Any new B5 S4 parts coming out? Just curious. I know it's an old chassis. I'm not sure what we have coming. We're talking about, so there's the windshield trays, the rain trays. We can do them. The tooling is obscenely expensive. We would have to sell like 400 of them just to break even.
Oh my god!
If you own a B5 and you're really interested in that, or you have any thoughts about that, please let us know.
So should I start a group buy of 450 cars?
That's basically
Yeah.
we need to sell
hit
300 or
that
400
threshold.
just to pay off the tooling cost, because they're big pieces and it's not cheap. So
Yeah.
I think I hear Nick coming already.
I know we'd probably sell 400, but we really would need to sell 1,000 or more
to
to make it work.
make it make sense.
Yeah, the 400 would just get us back to like where we started. B8 port injection, it's something we're looking into still.
We've got a couple of other options we'd rather go first. We're working on.
It's actually not the best option.
It's a complicated install. There's no easy way about it. And if you think $3,500 cams are really expensive, when you get a full port injection set up and all the labor and time and parts to get that in there, that gets spendy too. So
Mhm.
we've got a couple other options we're still working on.
Are there 820 turbos for the RS5, like how the S5 got 810s upgraded from 710s? Not yet, but there will be more coming in the future. The 720s are pretty phenomenal already.
Scam said he'd buy 2 windshield covers.
Yeah,
Just
that's-
Just 2. But no, guys.
So we'd have to sell 300.
It's only 398 more. Got it.
97.
There we go.
Oh, we got 3 spoken for?
Yeah.
Good deal.
What do we got? Oh, we
There's
got
faults to
50.
that wheel one. All that.
Oh, that doesn't help at all.
Where is it?
He wants aesthetics and handling, all considered.
Asthmatics. That's what he said.
Oh, aesthematics. For the wheel question, you see, we need more specifics in that. It's like, which 034 would you personally put on your B9 S5? We're all going to give you a different answer. I like running 19s on my cars, both for the compliance and it's generally a little more performant wheel. But lots of people like the look of the 20s better.
Yeah, and like I said, if you can fit a wider tire like you can on the S5, then 20s aren't as much of an issue. I have 21s on my Q7, but
They look tiny.
yeah, but they're 3 15-inch wide, and the sidewall's like 6-7 inches. I could hit a curb going 40 miles an hour and be fine. So I've done it.
40.
Yeah, I've hit stuff pretty hard. Like the thing's great. It's like on balloon tires. But I think they're maybe 35 series or 40, but they're 315s.
Yeah.
So and as if you don't know, the sidewall, number is a % of the width of the tire.
I mean, ultimately, your rolling damage is going to stay the same. So that sidewall is going to just shrink or grow based on your wheel size.
Any plans for an RS5 separate intake tubes? Yes, we have a RS5 intake in the works. It hasn't been a big priority because the car makes so much power on the stock.
Yeah, it's not struggling.
Stock one. But we do have a super duper setup coming for that. ETA for springs for the Audi A1S3. I think they're in manufacturing. Hopefully, maybe a few months away. I can't say off the top of my head. Would you guys make a strut race for MQB, or is it unnecessary? We've never gone around to doing one, but Racing Line has a nice one that you can always pick up. It definitely can't hurt anything. I don't know how much it's needed, but a lot of people run them. And again, stiffening up that connection between your strut races is a good thing. It's not going to hurt anything as far as that goes. This is interesting. My friend has a B9.5 being paid for by his parents. They won't let him tune it for warranty reasons, and they aren't a fan of letting him do springs. Any suggestions for other mods he has an intake? I don't know, man. I mean, that's between my buddy and his parents.
Back 034 motor safety.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can't blame the parents. I think if
It's kind of their car, so I mean, like,
well, I mean, if they're going to be on the hook for God knows what their son does, at least the warranty, makes it palatable. Yeah, I mean, virtually all of our products for that car are completely reversible, and our products are reliable, and they're not going to cause additional warranty issues or claims. But yeah, I mean, I think things like the intake,
ResX,
like inserts, would be easy. The rear, like front rear sway bar package, he could do that. His parents wouldn't even notice. That would make the car a lot more fun to drive. They may not even notice lowering springs, but they probably, if they're paying for the car, he probably doesn't have enough money to pay for that stuff on his own either.
The labor and then installation and all.
It's tough being that age, not being financially independent, and trying to do this type of thing. Hobbies that require money, which many do. Hiking is cheap, fishing's pretty cheap. Depending on how much you get into it. Biking, things like that are probably good hobbies for 18-year-olds. But
Bro, I've priced out some bikes. They cost more than my car.
Can you guys?
no, I know, but you can also get a bike for
No, I know.
$200 from a buddy and ride it. Huh? Which one?
Can you hit the side-loaded one? I keep messaging him the answer, but he's not.
Hey brothers, really important question I want to ask y'all. How much would the cams add to 3.0T, especially that I have Stage 2 Plus and all the... Okay, well, our website clearly states...
It's right on the website.
It's going to be about 30 horsepower, and the torque is about, what, 20, 15
like
to
that.
20?
It's on there. You can see the difference on the cars. It's going to change. It's going to be whatever, you know, it's going to depend on the car. These setups, when you get up in anything over Stage 2, the paths just become, you know, just immeasurable, different combinations and setups. So we can only really give an estimation, but this is what we measured on our car. We didn't change any of the other hardware. Took the cams out, stock cams out, put these cams in, ran on the same dyno. That's what we collected for data. So
yeah. I guess I'm wondering, why is he asking?
I mean, it's on the website. I'm not sure.
It's all right there. Yeah. So I wonder where the confusion is. P34 version intake for the B9 SQ5. Also, any plans for the bundle with inlet? So we are getting pretty close to doing an S34 intake. We won't be doing a P34, but the S34 is the carbon shield with the silicone hose and filter, and we will be doing a whole bundle as well for that. That's in manufacturing right now and will be available soon. Is there any way to put stock levels of products on the website? I had $1,800 worth of induction parts ordered for my B5 Stage 3 build and had to wait 4 days to find out they were all back ordered.
We do
to get
that stuff updated.
Everything on our site is does. Oh, okay. All right. Well, our most popular products have stock levels. Yeah. If they're not as popular, then we don't have the systems to do that currently.
It's a manual process.
Yeah. If you are thinking about placing an order and you're not sure, then shoot us an email at least, and we can tell you what's in stock and what isn't. Typically, when we're out of stock on a product, it comes back in stock pretty quickly. Usually, the wait is less than a month. But with everything going on in the world, sound like a broken record, but we are struggling to get manufactured products here on time. The timeliness is an issue, and there's just always some kind of delay going on. So for us, we want to be in stock, right? We can't ship your order if it's not in stock. Rear sway bar only on B9 worth it, or get the full package. If you want to go back to what I was saying about the B8 earlier, it absolutely applies to the B9. If you're looking for a really lively handling with more oversteer, then
on the B9 we upsize the special rear to keep the balance the same as if it were stock front. If you do this,
we do have a bigger rear only, but it's still not as much from my experience. But I think generally I recommend doing the full bar setup on the B9 because we do have a stiffer rear bar to help compensate for that. You're definitely going to get the flattest handling and the most responsive steering from doing both bars. I think we're doing okay today.
Yeah, we're doing all right.
Ever going to make your own ethanol sensor?
Make the sensor? We probably won't make the sensor.
Mm-hmm.
We have circuitry and components that connect to the sensor and will feed back to the ECU. But the sensor itself, I don't think there's any.
We would just use
our own.
We would just use an OEM.
They're
sensor.
available and not very expensive.
Maybe they mean like our own sensor kit
interface. Yeah.
Recently got the Stage 1 tune for B8.5. Do I have to request a water meth injection tune?
Stage 1, I don't think. Yeah, we don't do a specific tune on those for water meth, and ideally we'd want to look at your logs anyway to make sure your water meth isn't causing more problems than solutions. So we can certainly review your logs and see how things are going and see how things are working. Mm-hmm. But we don't have any Stage 1 water meth files ready to go.
You dudes rock. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Would E85 cause a fuel level sensor to go bad? No, I don't think so.
Never seen a sensor issue.
I think that's just pure correlation. The sensors go bad all the time.
Yes, I'm sorry. I haven't seen a correlated sensor fault to E85.
Well, you guys have horsepower numbers for all your other files, for example, single pulley E40 on the B8 S4. We've definitely been talking about it for a long time.
Yeah, again, the problem is like the calibrations are obviously have been done for some time, but it's the amount of time it takes to get the vehicles back into that configuration again to get all of the data collected on the dyno is kind of rough.
And you guys are always asking for new tunes, new products.
And yeah, we're adding more and
updates.
more. That's tough to go back and collect.
The file is good. The file makes more power.
Right.
It's it's a worthwhile thing. There's thousands of them on the road. It's just been hard for us to spend sometimes days to do the testing.
And the E40, maybe we make this more clear. The E40 numbers are basically the same as the 104 numbers that are on the site as far as the resultant power and what you get out of it.
Yeah.
So that's going to give you a pretty spot on estimation of power.
Oh, we're almost out of time, but we do have
yeah.
some new BMW products. These are our density line products for the F2X and the F3X for the engine mounts, and we're also releasing E9X M3 transmission mounts today as well, which we haven't had up till now. These are our density line style mounts, which I would say is a 0 through 4 motorsport innovation. We released our first density mounts in like 2005. It's been copied since, but we were really the first ones to go remanufacture, re-engineer an OEM mount as a performance mount without going to poly and doing billet style mounts and everything like that. We do billet mounts as well. But we take a factory OEM style mount, we eliminate a lot of the voids inside, which make the mount really soft and compliant. And we also remove and eliminate any of the hydraulic mount functions, which the factory uses to kind of give the mount a staged level of stiffness. And so we just go to a much simpler solid rubber design. We spec and test the rubber stiffness, so there's different durometers. And these are street density style, so they're good for use on all cars with minimal NVH increases, although you may notice some small amounts of NVH, which is just a consequence of having a stiffer, better performing mount. But these are available to ship in stock, ready today. Again, they fit the F2X, F3X, and not pictured here are the E9X M3 transmission mounts. Got another minute. Anything we need to jump on? Some of these are kind of,
This is a good one.
some of these are dodgy.
We have the stock TCU patch.
Would it be possible to run the B9.5 late 2022-23 with locked unflashable TCU with just an ECU?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We have a patched ECU file for that exact purpose, so you should see that on your flashing portal. If you don't, let us know, but I think they're all up. They've been up for some time, so that should all be covered. But yeah, we've got a file for that stock TCU. So, and no, we probably won't be doing Mark 7 Jetta torsion bar upgrades for a 2020.
We won't,
Jetta.
but we used to.
We used to, honestly. We
did
a lot
some
of
really
work
cool
those,
shit
yeah.
with that rear
with the Mark 4, yeah.
Yeah, on the Mark 4 era.
Really?
Oh yeah, they're all boxed in rear, triangulated links to adjust toe and stuff.
It's a surprisingly sensible rear suspension design for a mass-produced car,
Right.
but there's a beam with two trailing arms that are in its one assembly. The beam itself is like springy sheet metal, and then inside the beam is basically a torsion bar, a sway bar tube. So the beam can twist, which is what allows the rear suspension to be compliant over, from left to right, side bumps. The problem is that the rear trailing arms just kind of bounce around like this. So if you go on the dyno and let's say you put some straps on the front tires to a wall, and then you have a hook, and you can actually pull the rear tires around like 5 degrees each.
It's pretty substantial. You can deflect those a lot.
You can kick it really hard and get it to move. So when you go into the corner, instead of holding an alignment, that rear suspension is just kind of, it's like the tire's just on the end of this, bouncy steel rod that's also going like this. So the way you fix it is you put basically hind, strut links from the center of the beam out to the trailing arm portions of the rear beam axle. And so that locks in the outside positioning and just allows the rear torsion beam to twist and move in a more linear up and down fashion. It's just a very compromised suspension design, and it's why even Volkswagen, after using it for 30, 40 years, ditched it. But they're still using it in the Jetta.
They do use it in some weird models.
The Passat.
Like the 8-valve Jetta.
In Europe, I saw lots of... I was in Europe last week, and so many cars had it there. I can just, see it from a mile away. So, anyways. Well, good luck with the Jetta. If you really want to get into a Volkswagen and get into really the meat of what's so awesome about tuning these cars, you should get out of a Jetta.
Yeah, it's sad. The Jetta's a great chat.
It's a cool looking car.
It's a great car. It always gets this weird.
It's always
combo
the bastard
cards that are not
redhead,
quite the same as any of the other mainline models.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. Can you hit one last one?
Just to, we got it.
I installed your rotors on my B9 RS5 with EBC red stuff brakes. There is a clicking, ticking noise coming from the front rotors. Are you aware of this issue, and is there a solution? We found that it can be based on what pads you're running. In our experience, OEM and OEM replacement style pads do not make these sounds.
I'm not familiar with the red stuff brakes, but a lot of the pad companies on performance pads will open up the guide tolerances so that at higher temperatures they don't bind in the calipers or on the guide pins.
Yeah, so
so there's a little more movement
pad
in there.
will click around in the caliper.
That might be what it is.
I'm not a big fan of EBC pads in general, so I would stay away from them. On the street, OEM pads or Padgett OE replacements, things like that work great. That's all you really need. And on track, then you're going to want to go with a full track pad.
And the noise is
it's
not
going to be the
consideration.
noisiest shit you can imagine.
Yeah,
the noisier the better.
There's usually no rattle springs. There's usually no...
Yeah.
Because all that stuff is just... It is prone to issues when the temperatures really get extreme.
Yeah, I think the key clarification there is it's not an issue per se. It's
very likely it's just the pad design, the backing plate. There's a lot of considerations that go into the backing plate for thermal expansion. That's probably that pad is probably tailored more for higher temperature operating.
No, there's no mechanical issue. There's no safety issue. There's no performance issue. It is a issue of NVH and annoyance. And I get it. I wouldn't necessarily be crazy about driving around on the street having clicking brake pads either. But I do think it's not necessarily related to our rotors. It's more those pads.
Right.
We have lots of our rotors on cars here, and they're quite quiet. They do make more noise under braking due to the J hooks, but overall, not bad at all.
Yeah, we've worked with a number of different pad manufacturers over the years, and if you make a quiet pad work on the track, we've potato chipped a number of pads because they'll actually start binding up in the caliper carrier, and you're still obviously pushing on them with the brake pistons, and then the pad just starts deforming, and you get this taco of a brake pad in the end.
Yeah, and then you're out in the paddock with a brake pad on the cement pavement, trying to sand it down to get it to loosen up, doing all kinds of other horrible things.
So there's all kinds of considerations when you're at the limit of material temperatures.
Well, I think we're well out of time, so I think we'll see you guys next week. Cheers.
All right.
Thanks again.